chasing a feeling.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feels Out Loud, brought to you by Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness. This is your host, Tara Martini, along with Becky McNattin. We're glad to have you here listening as we live and share stories of mental health.
Good morning, Tara.
Good morning, my dear.
Hey, have you heard of the term poetry therapy?
I had not heard of it until you introduced me to this beautiful way of doing therapy.
Yeah, well, it was new to me a few years ago, too. What does it make you think of?
It makes me think of expressing yourself in an imaginative way. It makes me think of doing therapy in a way that, for creative types, would feel more comfortable than talk therapy. And it also makes me think of that therapy can be more than just two people sitting in a room discussing feelings.
Yeah.
Where this seems more like experiencing
Really
their
good
feelings
point.
in
Yeah.
a different way.
When I saw this just a minute ago, when I first found it just like 3 years ago, I thought it meant that people read and write poetry together, and maybe as a tool for processing, because it does say therapy. And I did kind of get that correct. That is part of it. But I didn't really understand what the concept actually meant and why it was useful. And so today, I want to share about this incredible therapeutic option. And of course, everybody, I'm so biased about this because I practice poetry therapy myself. I'm a poetry therapy practitioner.
Of course you are.
But I think it is a powerful tool for navigating and processing hardships and exploring and developing our self-awareness. And to start, I know you know this, Tara, but our listeners might not. Poetry therapy is not only about reading and writing poems. It's about much more than that. It is the use of language, symbol, and story in therapeutic, educational growth, and community building capacities. And it relies upon the use of poems, stories, song lyrics even, imagery, and metaphor to facilitate things like personal growth, healing, and greater self-awareness. And lots of different tools are used for this. Poetry can definitely be a part of it, but think of it more like an umbrella term. Poetry therapy is an umbrella term for what I'm about to say. That it is the written word as medicine. I'll say it again. It is the use of written word as medicine. And I mean that. Seriously, Tara, I've seen it happen so many times that words are medicine. And it isn't a pill like we're used to in our society, but it does help us heal. And are there times that a poem or poetry has been helpful to you?
Yes.
Maybe reading or writing them?
Yes. I cannot tell you the amount of times, and I think that this is a common occurrence for humans, when I cannot put into words something that I have experienced or felt.
Yes.
And why am I starting to tear up right now? I will read a piece of poetry, and within every ounce of my being will recognize that and go, that is how I feel.
Yeah. And such a good point that we see that outside of us, and so helpful. Also, sometimes not only what we write, that content, but literally the process of writing itself. There's catharsis and it's helpful. With lots of my clients, in addition to asking the content and maybe they read it back to me, we talk about it, I say, what was it like to write that? And just the experience of writing and maybe reading back what we hear changes things for us. It changes our perception. And we are going to spend literally the entire episode today.
I could not be more excited.
Talking about words as medicine, poems. We're going to focus our whole show on this poetry therapy thing today. Right now, we're going to take a short commercial break, but stay tuned as we further explore all things poetry therapy. Thank you for listening to Feels Out Loud. We will be back in just a moment.
Never need help from nobody else. All you got to do now. Nothing to lose. In a world full of strangers, you don't know what's right. All you see is danger, trying to find what you lost. get going alone.
Welcome back to Feels Out Loud, brought to you by Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness. I'm Tara Martini with Becky McNattin. Let's dive right back into our amazing discussion on poetry therapy.
Yes. So pumped. So as we talk through poetry therapy today, I want to give the caveat to everyone who's listening that providers of this type of therapy do go through a lot of years of training. There are therapists who also use poetry therapy strategies who maybe don't have a certification in it, but they also do go through years of training.
Right.
So what I share and what you and I talk about on the show today can't take place of that skilled therapist who really is a partner in processing. But there definitely are concepts that everyone can think about, and a ton of resources available to make this concept of writing a part of daily lived experience in meaningful ways. Can be part of processing at any time.
Okay.
So guess what? We talk in poetry, Tara. And you and I have maybe said this on the show in other episodes.
I think we have.
But we talk in poetries. We don't. And you're an English teacher, so you know this.
Yeah.
We don't speak in complete sentences and paragraphs. And when I've talked to you about editing, you're like, yeah, we don't, because a complete sentence has good punctuation.
Yes. Yeah.
Humans don't do that.
We don't, and particularly when we truly speak from the heart, we shouldn't, right? Because true expression uses fragments and one-word sentences and all those beautiful things.
Yep.
The best writing forgets all the rules.
Well said. And so when we speak in phrases, if people just wrote down their thoughts immediately as they had them and didn't edit to fit any expectation, they would have a poem.
They would.
Their thoughts would be a poem. And something else really cool. You just said this about writing. Poetry can be absolutely anything.
It can be anything.
Hear me when I say that. There are no rules about what makes poems. Some are even just a single sentence. Now, I get that people are maybe listening and saying, "Oh my gosh, yes, there are poems that are made of something. They do have a structure." Sure, there are some poems out there, haikus and limericks and a sonnet, but a poem at its essence is just a collection of words. Honestly, anything is a poem.
Well, there's free verse poems that literally, so if we have to have a title to it,
Yes.
there are free verse poems that have no pattern or rhyme scheme or anything like that. So for those of you that need a title or a name.
Yep. Look up free verse poem. You're totally right. I hear a lot, I can't write poems, Becky. And people know that poetry is my thing. I can't write poems. And my response to this is typically one of two things. One is, do you write anything else? Because if you write anything else, you are most certainly writing a poem. And sometimes I'm a little sassy and I say things like, maybe the goal isn't to write them, it's to feel them. And I know that the second response maybe gets me a weird look sometimes. I'm being sarcastic in saying that, but I do get what people are talking about. I know that when they say I can't write poems, that they are comparing themselves to this like idealized, eloquent writer, human who maybe has gone to school for writing, and that they're not that.
Right.
I get that. My point in my responses, though, is to highlight that anyone can write.
Anyone can write.
If you are thinking, you can write.
If you're feeling, you can write.
And I bet you have some thoughts on this, too, because you are a former English teacher who I would believe has some bias on that.
100%. And one of the best feelings in the world is showing students and even clients that you are a writer. Because so many people think that a poem has to rhyme. To me, some of the worst poems out there are the ones that have this clear rhyme scheme.
Yes.
Because it's so obvious.
Yes.
Where there are amazing things within the found poetry category, that ways to teach kids to be poets, that when a kid looks at a piece of paper and realizes they created something, and it can be so simple and so powerful, but when they realize they created it, whether it's a blackout poem, right? And we've talked about those before. Whatever it is, but they did it. It's so profound, empowering. all the things, because then they know they're capable of creating this thing that express themselves. And that's huge, particularly if they struggle with expressing it verbally.
Yes.
Now they've just done it.
Now they've done it. Yes. And you use the word express. Poetry therapy is an expressive therapy.
It is.
And what are your thoughts, Tara, about expressive therapies? It's maybe use your words on how you would describe what they are.
I think expressive therapy is for the client who is fearful of verbalizing their feelings. Expressive therapy is when it's thinking outside the box. It's when I think of clients who are terrified to sit on the couch, and when they think of traditional talk therapy, it blows talk therapy out of the water, right? And their image of traditional therapy.
Such a
It's
good point.
experiencing life and taking their experiences and sharing it with the therapist in a whole new way, right? It's revealing something about their life without having to talk through it.
Right. Well, it is, if we think about, often talk therapy is reflection on action. Expressive therapies are often reflection in action. And so in terms of the expressive therapies, it's a huge field. Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness as a business is super passionate about expressive therapies. People can find out more about expressive therapies on our website. But we've done shows on these too. Past shows. It includes things like art, dance, any kind of movement. And that movement can be exercise, yoga, definitely imagery is included in expressive therapies, play, nature, the list goes on. You did a beautiful job of describing it. Poetry therapy is the written aspect of expressive arts therapies. So this would be reading, writing, journal keeping, storytelling. Those are all things that people might do if they were participating in poetry therapy sessions. And there's 3 major components for using poetry and written word as medicine.
Okay.
And I want to dive into these today. The first one of them is receptive or prescriptive. And so those 2 words really describe a therapist introducing a poem or a piece of writing and having someone respond, reflect, maybe share about thoughts and feelings that poem or piece of writing elicits. Could be a poem about something that has been talked about in therapy. So it could be a way to reflect on, hey, we've been processing this thing.
Okay.
It also could be a way to initiate or begin a topic that someone has mentioned. So it's kind of like a toe in the water. And I want to try this with you today.
Ooh, yes.
I want us to think for the next few minutes about being 2 people who need to process our self-worth.
Oh, gee, I wonder why you picked that topic.
And I know it will be really hard for us to pretend this. I have 2 poems that I brought with me today to show how short a poem can be. So that was part of this. And obviously, like how we might use the prescriptive way of poetry therapy. So I'm going to read the first poem. I want you to read the second poem.
Okay.
But both of these are on self-worth. First one is Melody Godfred, entitled Self-Worth.
Okay.
Of all the things I own, my worth is my favorite possession. Of all the things I own, my worth is my favorite possession. Will you read us the second one?
I'm still digesting the first one. Okay. The second one is acceptance. If I am the longest relationship of my life, isn't it time to nurture intimacy and love with the person I lie in bed with each night?
Rupi Kaur.
Girl, I love Rupi Kaur.
Yeah.
One of my faves.
And so if we were processing this within a poetry session, we might read these out loud together.
Okay.
We might read them line by line. We might read them a couple of times. You might read them and then I might read them.
Okay.
And then we would talk through how the poem makes us feel. So what do these 2 poems cause you to think about?
The first one, self-worth,
Yeah.
made me think about if only I felt that way. Because it says, of all the things I own, my worth is my favorite possession.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it made me think about, I was struck with the first one too, that is self-worth a possession? And if it is, if I thought about it that way, how do I care for it? Like,
Those are great questions.
almost really from this externalized space of, wow, self-worth isn't just something I believe. If it were a possession and I owned it, am I caring for it the way that I might care for other possessions of mine? And things like, how does negative self-talk impact my ownership of worth? Do I hand it away then?
Right. And then connecting it to the second poem using that word nurture. Do I nurture it? Wow.
Yeah. And so if we were in a session together, we might talk through that, might share like, oh, what life experiences have shaped the way that I'm even answering the question. And then we might take that poem and say, well, let's write about what we just discussed. And write about just what comes to mind, or what are the feelings I'm having now that I've processed this. And often a therapist will give a prompt from this. And one of the prompts when I read these two poems, I was thinking, oh, what if I asked you, if you were my client, to write about if I acted out worth on a daily basis, I would ... Because sometimes I think people consider poetry therapy as this eloquence and amazing wise thoughts. And honestly, when we talk about writing or processing, it can be bullet points. And so in saying, if I acted out my worth on a daily basis, ... I would. And then you just make a list.
And that, what you just said right there, makes it so much more accessible and realistic for the average person. Because what you said of, I think it can be intimidating for people because they have the image of holy buckets.
Right.
I have to interpret poetry. And I also want to go back to quickly about what you said of, Tara, what was your takeaway? And I interpreted self-worth poem, and then you interpreted it, and we had different takeaways.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty of poetry therapy and poetry in general as well, is there's no wrong answer.
There's no wrong answer.
So if you're sitting there scared about poetry therapy going, well, when you heard our voices, well, who got it right, Becky or Tara?
Right.
We both got it right. There's no right or wrong.
Yes.
It's your interpretation, and that's the beauty of it. And that's what's so empowering about poetry, is it's just how you, the reader, interpreted it. And so when you talk about poetry therapy, that's what's amazing about it.
Well said. It allows us to read it from our space of perspective, truth, what's occurred to
your life experiences, all of that gathered.
Yeah, certain words stand out to one person, and certain words might stand out to another person. So the second major component of poetry therapy is expressive and creative.
Okay.
And this is where someone creates the writing themselves. So we think about the first one and it's more prescriptive. We're taking someone else's writing and processing it. This is where a person might develop something all on their own. And this could be via journaling, writing prompts, even letters, seriously, anything creative.
Okay.
Anything creative. Now, a poem could be introduced, and then a line of that poem might be taken as inspiration for the title of a creative writing piece.
Okay.
But think of it as people are doing the creating here. And I want to share some examples of this. I mentioned letter writing just a couple seconds ago. It's so cool, and we can use this as therapists in lots of different ways. I'm sure you have had people write letters.
Oh, yes.
We can adapt this all kinds of ways. And people at home, you can try this on your own as well. I've had people write letters to conflictual humans in their life that they never intend to send. But this is about sitting and writing or typing what you want to say and have the other person not present to hear what is shared. Sometimes helps us get through feels that might be inappropriate to even share with the person, but to give them space. When you and I talk about all feels our own space, I have had clients read these out loud, or sometimes I have read them out loud to the client so they can hear their own words verbalized externally.
So powerful.
That they can hear their own emotions. We can write letters to ourselves. I myself have written to my own feelings. I've written to my younger self. I once was in a group where I had to be a supervisor writing a letter to me about what they were noticing around progress and growth. So I took a
Ooh.
supervisor's view.
Yeah.
And I have lots of times written letters both to my emotions and had my emotions be able to write the letter. I'll say like anger is writing what it wants to say right now. You ever written a letter, Tara?
I have.
Okay.
So I started a practice for myself of every single night just writing 1 or 2 sentences to me from love.
Yeah. Okay.
So from a place of self-love, just a little letter to myself.
I love that. And how would you say that impacts you or helps you?
The process was crazy because I struggled at first because it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? And it was a challenge I took on by myself.
Yeah.
And it was eye-opening to see where things would come from because it would just come out of what I thought was nowhere. But then it was amazing how it would connect to the day where whatever it was that happened. And I'd go, wow, oh, didn't see that one coming. But I've done the same thing, whether it's with clients from a younger version of themselves or whatever topic we're exploring.
Yep.
Or like you said, to a family member or something like that, and they don't send it.
Yep.
It is a very simple yet powerful thing that anyone can do, any listener. And it is incredible the healing power it has. And then whether that is you burn that letter, you rip it up, you send it, not send it literally, but like send it into the universe.
Yeah.
Whatever that is,
Yep.
it's there's almost a ritual, nature to it.
Yes. And, in addition to kind of, it could be an aspect of a letter, could be its own form of writing by itself is dialogue. Think of it like a script.
Yes.
Where there might be something that we want to process through with another person. And it's helpful to kind of write out what we might say and even think through what might they say as not to create an entire scenario about this, but to really help us think through what do I want to get across. I've used this many times in sessions on things like a dialogue between your head and your heart. What is your head saying? And what does your head say to your heart? And what does your heart say back? Let's have
Love
them
that.
interact and exchange with each other so we can think about, they both get space. It's kind of a town hall of self going on. But things like dialogue can be very helpful. And then the other thing I was thinking about in terms of creative expression is this writing about duality. Whoa, do you and I talk about duality a lot.
All the time.
And therapists live in a space of sharing with our clients. We hardly ever experience only one emotion at a time. Hardly ever. So it's kind of even weird to think about because it's fascinating how sometimes those feelings can even be paradoxical with one another. We feel two feels like, how am I elated and terrified at the same time? Or, we talk about like happy and sad or I'm like angry and loving at the same time, but super interesting. And you're smiling at me. So is there a time recently where you've had at least two feels? Because sometimes it's even more than that.
Right. Yes.
And it seems like
we
a paradox.
said, because we do this all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if we kept a record, and not even of a week, but just of a day, like a little tally sheet of how many times we say to clients with capital A-N-D of, wait, this and I always do an emphasis on the and.
Yeah.
I found myself the other day, I moved within the last year to a place that is my sanctuary. It is just my beloved space. And I feel when I'm in it such a sense of peace. I can't put into words. And was feeling such sorrow about something.
Yeah.
And was sitting there going, so fascinating that I can feel such peace in my life at this moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And feel sorrow.
Yes. Absolutely.
how is that even possible? How can you feel peace if you're feeling sorrow? But I was.
Yeah. Well,
But you have to allow it, right?
yep.
Where I think humans, we fight it.
Yep.
I can't feel peace if I'm feeling sorrow.
Right. And
But
notice,
you can.
yes, and noticing that the paradox is
Yes.
literally there. And so, as I said a couple minutes ago, we can use a poem and take that as inspiration to write about. And your moment of like highlighting this paradoxical experience inspires me to share Sibylla Soliloquies. I am a paradox. It's a poem. I am a paradox. I say I don't care when I really do. I say I don't need someone to ask me how I am when I am longing them to. I say my voice matters and act as though it doesn't. I want someone to know my emotions when I haven't told them and never want to tell them either. I want to be happy, but I think of sad thoughts. I am lazy, yet I am ambitious. I'm ambitious. I crave attention, love, and support, but reject it when it comes my way. I am strong, yet run back to the ones who hurt me. I am a conflicted contradiction. I love this poem.
Oh, I
the
love
poem.
this.
And if we were in a poetry session right now, we might use this as a tool to process paradox and oxymorons. You and I love oxymorons.
Yes, we do.
If you and I read this and then we wrote our own prompt, we took that last line of the poem, which is one of my favorite lines of the poem.
Me
I am
too.
a conflicted contradiction.
Yep.
And we said, we're going to use that as the title of our own piece. I am a conflicted contradiction. And then we would each take time, just like the poet did in writing that they are a conflicted contradiction. We made our own poem about how contradictions show up in our lives, how we live that out. And then we might share that.
I love that.
And has me thinking about, like, you know, a couple weeks ago, you and I did a show about being super lonely, surrounded by others.
Yes.
And we talked about it.
Yes, we did.
That's a paradox. I am a conflicted contradiction. And a beautiful example of how contradiction shows up in our daily lived experience. How we love people and they are usually the ones who enrage us the most when we love them the most.
100% true.
And it helps us develop self-awareness in reading things like this and highlighting the paradox and giving grace for ourselves and how complex our experiences are. As you said, and you and I actually both have that tattooed to ourselves.
Yes, we do.
We live it out on a daily basis.
Yep.
And how would you say creatively processing paradox helps, in your opinion?
Oh, I think so much of, well, one, just processing the fact of, okay, where is, because there's that disconnect in somehow, right? That idea of, so for me, as you're talking, of course, then I'm thinking of all the contradictory things in my life. Like, I love a clean house, but my life is pretty messy. Okay. Well, what are things I can do to where my life can be more reflective of how my house looks? So it's, in what ways can I make them closer together? Now, in some ways, the paradox or the contradictory statement deserves to be that, right? It can just be that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But when exploring the different statements, in what ways can I make them more similar?
Yeah. How does the paradox impact me? How does the contradiction impact me? Am I okay with that? Is there something I can do to make it more aligned?
Yep.
Yes.
And are there action steps? And what are
Totally.
those action
Yes.
steps?
And that leads kind of to the last component, major component of poetry therapy, which you talked about ceremony just a couple minutes ago.
I did.
The third component is symbolism and ceremony,
Okay.
which maybe is my favorite component of poetry therapy, although I have a high reverence for creativity as well. This is the use of metaphors, storytelling, and ritual for change. And ceremony and ritual opportunities are vast. You talked about kind of letter burning, somebody ripping something up.
Yep.
I know somebody, just met them in the last year, who makes an appointment with themselves every day. And they write during this appointment time. And that is a ritual. I have had clients who also have written things and burned them. I've had people who take rocks or leaves and set them on like a riverbed or actually in the river and watch them float away as the symbolism of letting things go.
Oh, what a beautiful thing.
Or leaving something and watching it actually release. Songs fit amazingly into this category because we can listen to songs at certain times. Lots of people have ceremony or ritual about putting it in at the end of their day, or so there's all sorts of things that we can do in bringing in ceremony and ritual. Metaphor and analogy, which is where you and I hover,
We love.
means using figurative language for highly complex emotional experiences. And because sometimes we need an external image or concept to really validate our emotional experience.
Well, and we also need, I think it's a great use for anything, even outside the therapeutic realm, but particularly even in the therapeutic realm. If you're talking to a client who isn't grasping what you're trying to say, but let's say you're working with a student, a school-age client, and they're not really grasping what you're saying, but the kid plays hockey. So you use a metaphor, using hockey to try and get them to grasp the therapeutic term. Then they get it. Right? So it's an amazing way to increase comprehension.
Absolutely. When you can kind of tether it to something that you can very
that they
much
get.
Yep. And we use metaphors all the time. Everybody who's listening, you use metaphors.
You just don't know you're using it sometimes.
And so a few examples, just something like grief comes in waves. That I've talked about grief as an ocean and all kinds of versions of that, but that some waves are huge and knock you over. That if you're standing right on the beach, you see it coming even, and you don't realize it, and it knocks you over. And maybe there's a one right after that you didn't see coming. I've heard in the last week twice, this relationship is a roller coaster. And highlighting that the twists and turns, the ups and downs, that it's exhilarating and terrifying was one way that it was highlighted. That roller coasters are kind of this like fascinating ride.
Well, there's that paradox.
Yes. I have heard, my friend was like this cozy warm blanket right there offering comfort.
A little simile there.
Yes. And when we can think of that cozy warm blanket, we really can then picture, oh my gosh, that is comfort. Another example, my life is the darkest tunnel. I can't even see my hands in front of me and have no idea how to navigate when darkness is so thick that you can't even see who you are. Darkest tunnel. We can then like picture what that emotion must be like for that person. I just heard yesterday that fight was a volcanic eruption. And now we can picture something. So these are all types of metaphors. We can creatively work even with objects, and lots of us therapists do this in our offices, where we talk about how things represent our lives. And I literally brought just something from my purse.
I was wondering when were you going to introduce those?
Yeah, the items, we don't need to talk about why I have a duck in a rubber duck and paint samples in my purse. But you talked about using things that are known to people. Pick one of these things, Tara. There's a pencil, there's paint samples, and there's a rubber duck. How is your life like that?
Ooh. I am going to pick a pencil.
Yeah.
How is my life like a pencil?
Yeah.
We've got some smooth parts on that, where life is smooth sailing.
Yeah.
And it's actually, as you can see, that goes for a while. And then all of a sudden you'll have an unexpected bump where it goes down for a little bit, and hits some ridges where unexpected bumps hit.
Oh, well said.
And you don't know when that's going to happen.
You don't know when it's going to happen. Yes.
And at some unexpected moment, there is this smooth, beautiful cushion that surrounds you with support and love, and you are comforted. And then before you know it, that cliff of unexpected chaos just throws you overboard.
Oh,
that'd be the end of the eraser.
I love that so much. Well, that's
me just creating a story, and also using the pencil as a metaphor.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Yeah.
the pencil makes me think about how can something so strong be so fragile? Because they're both
Amen.
the same. Like I could snap this so quickly.
but also the tip of it also, like,
Yes.
can create stories and
Totally.
beautiful tales.
Oh, well said.
And create so many things, but at the same time, you just hit it in the right spot and it can snap. And then it stops your story immediately until you sharpen it and give it strength again.
Absolutely.
So many things we could say.
I picked I want to pick the duck. I think people are so much like ducks. My life is definitely like a duck. On the surface, I look like I got it all together and I am just like smoothly floating through life.
Yes, you are.
And under the surface, I am feverishly paddling in ways that are unknown to the calm observer who's sitting on a park bench. So I feel like my life is one duck. One duck.
What I love is both of us in this episode. I was like, I have a really clean house and my life is messy.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'm a duck because everybody sees me as calm and put together. But under the water, I am frantically swimming chaotically.
Right. And so that
I
would
like
be
our vulnerability.
Yeah, that would be a way that metaphor is used through sessions. We
Yeah.
might use things right in front of us. So now that we've talked about some of the major components of poetry therapy, I just want to highlight it's helpful. We've talked about, it's a springboard for discussion. You said amazingly at the beginning of this episode that sometimes it's hard to put words to verbalizing a circumstance by imagery. Metaphor can speak to that. It gives voice to these interpersonal issues that can be really embarrassing, maybe shame-filled, or we literally don't even know how to find words for. And so we get this opportunity for self-reflection, sometimes being validated by someone else having written something. That's huge.
Yes.
We feel like, gosh, something must be big enough that somebody else wrote about it.
And I'm not alone in feeling the feels.
Yeah, and feeling seen in the way that someone else describes that thing. And so to listeners out there who are like, wow, I'm kind of intrigued by poetry therapy. Well, we live and breathe poems every day in our thoughts. And so to somebody who's wondering, well, what can I do with that? You can start journaling today. You could start journaling as soon as you hear this and write down something like, have an emotion be the writer for you. Give the actual pencil, not the figurative or metaphoric one, but the actual pencil or pen to an emotion that you're having right in that moment and know what you're feeling. And then maybe even like dialogue with it. Give it a voice. So I would say buy a journal. I mean it. Don't think of this as a diary to talk about what you did that day. Think of it as an external way to process. Get your thoughts out. Don't edit. Just write. I also really want to say we are our stories. And I know you believe that too, Tara. We are our stories. And sometimes there is pain in just owning them. And that we have to. That is part of our process because we are a collection of our stories. So sitting down and thinking about, this could be a personal challenge to people who are listening today, 4 key life moments that have made you who you are today, in this moment. Write down the 4 and then maybe write about the 4.
I love that.
And then maybe think about how it feels to write about what you wrote about.
Right. In a little tip for you, if you're sitting there going, well, I don't have a journal and I don't have time to leave the house today, grab a pile of Post-it notes. And just for
idea.
today, take a writing utensil and write down one sentence, whether it's just a feeling statement of how you feel. Then set it aside. And each day, write a feeling statement or just one sentence. And then put those somewhere, and you will realize that over the course of 5 days or 7 days that you've written a poem.
You have written a poem. What a great idea.
There you go.
On a Post-it.
Yes.
And not only are then you're reflecting on what were those days of emotions that you had, but you literally wrote a
You
poem.
wrote a poem. And so you put those Post-its, you can rearrange them, and there you go.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
a poet.
Everybody, you're a poet. So much to think about here. We are headed to a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk through listener questions about integrating poetry and bibliotherapy into daily life. Feels Out Loud will process your questions and thoughts in just a moment.
From nobody else. All you got to do now long.
We are back again with Feels Out Loud, and this part of the show is where we talk through questions from our beautiful listeners. If you have a question related to mental wellness, sharing feelings, or topics for each week that you would like us to process through, please visit our website at becomingtogethermn.com and find the Feels Out Loud page to submit a question directly, or email us at contact@becomingtogethermn.com. Of course, follow us on social media as well. We really do want to hear from you and what you are wondering about.
And thank you, everyone who sent in some thoughts, some comments, some questions about poetry therapy.
Yes.
One of our listeners said, I think I might want to get more training in poetry therapy. How do I do this? And I first said, oh my gosh, yay.
Yeah, great question.
I love that. And so I really wanted to include this because if there's anybody who does want to learn more about what poetry therapy is, you don't have to be a therapist to get different certifications in poetry therapy. There are all sorts of levels and layers to ways to get training in it. So I would recommend, based on your educational background, visit the National Association for Poetry Therapy. That can be found at poetrytherapy.org. And they walk through all of the different certifications. There are lots of expressive therapies trainings online as well, but visit that website and see what you find. And listener, welcome to the club if this resonates with you. Our second question that I picked for today was, I want to try poetry therapy, but I seriously feel like I can't write poems.
I'm sure that's a common fear.
Yes. And this person says, and the poems I used to read in school a long time ago made zero sense to me. But the concept feels like it could be really helpful. How could I start? And I absolutely understand where this person is coming from, because a lot of times in school, Tara, you know this as a teacher, we have picked poems that are very difficult.
Good Lord.
Think of like Shakespeare, or it's like language that does not, we don't understand.
Well, and it's a horrible first impression for students, right? Because it just makes it feel unapproachable and scary.
Yes. So hear this person, and I would say, one option is I have a poetry therapy group, the community group that meets once a week at Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness. It's called Flannel Fridays, the fourth Friday of every month. Check out our website and join. It is not a clinical therapeutic group, but we'd love to have you. And it's that kind of introductory exploration on utilization of journals, poems, self-expression through writing that could be really cool for you. I hear,
rumor has it, it's free.
It's free. Yes. Oh, yes. I totally forgot that.
I mean, that's pretty important. So yeah, it's free. And is there an age requirement?
This is adults.
Okay. So 18 plus?
Yep.
Okay.
And I would say to this listener also, you mentioned even Post-it notes work. I would have said buy a journal, a notebook. It doesn't have to be a fancy journal that you spent a ton of money on, and commit to writing just even a couple minutes every day. I loved your thought of one sentence every day. So don't start with a focus on writing poetry. If you say, I feel like I can't write poems, don't start there. Don't sit down and tell yourself you have to come up with this like amazing poem. Just focus on what you're thinking in that moment. Or as you said, you do yourself, one sentence about self-love. And try not to focus on regurgitating your day, but write about what you see around you and maybe how you feel about those things. Or write about something that has occurred in your life with a focus on how you felt about it. And then I would say also try to see the metaphors around you. They're everywhere. Pick anything. And then we sort of challenged ourselves in this episode today, pick anything. And how does that relate to how I feel right now? I used to challenge people. Nature is great with us. I used to challenge people, go find loneliness in nature. We're talking about loneliness today. I want you to take a picture of it and bring it back to me next week.
Love that idea.
So find that embodied. It is everywhere and it's modeled for you. Nature does this for us all on our own. At the end of our show already.
One of my favorite episodes.
Thank you for listening this morning, everyone. And join us next week as we talk through the art of togetherness. But in the week ahead, be kind to yourself. Remember that connection fosters wellness. And your voice is one that the world around you needs to hear, everyone. Share yourselves, friends.
Try again. Some do, some don't. Some will, some won't.